Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for today, Friday, March 8th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over a recap of yesterday's picks, seeing how they ultimately ended up turning out. Then after that, we'll get moved over into the injuries and play for today's slate. It's a 6-game main slate in total. There are 2 games that are not on the main slate on either site, though. And then after that, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and FanDuel and talk about my core picks on both sites. It's going to be one player at each position. So point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. But without further ado, we'll get started with that recap of yesterday's picks, where we did have Dennis Schroeder at point guard, $6,100. Looking for at least 31 at him. Got to 45.25, so he was a really good hit on yesterday's slate. At shooting guard, we had Duncan Robinson, $5,800. Was looking for at least 29 out of him. He got to exactly 29, so he was a hit on yesterday's slate. Then at small forward, we had Anthony Edwards, $8,800. Looking for at least 44 out of him. I will say he was cut in and out of the game a couple times where it looked like he was injured, so that was pretty scary early on in the day, but he did ultimately end up with 65.5 points, so he ended up being a really good hit overall. And then at power forward was our one lone miss on the DraftKings side yesterday, so we had Keegan Murray, $5,800. Was looking for 29 out of him at the bare minimum. Got to 7.25. Very unfortunate day for him overall. He had 3 rebounds, 3 points, not much else in 31 minutes. Only 1 for 4 shooting from the field. And unfortunately, Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, and Malik Monk combined for 68 shots in this game. So there wasn't too much left to go around for him. 32 shots overall for De'Aaron Fox yesterday, which you're not going to get more times than not. So just kind of an unfortunate day for him overall. And then at center, we had Zach Collins, $4,300, looking for at least 22 out of him, got to 37.25, so he was a really good hit. So 4 out of 5 in terms of the hits on the DraftKings side yesterday. Some pretty big ones with Dennis Schroeder, Anthony Edwards, and Zach Collins. If you had some other good plays alongside this lineup, you had a good chance of cashing overall, although the Keegan Murray thing was a little bit unfortunate yesterday. Maybe that should have just been Keldon Johnson in general, although I did play him in my main line as well. Then on the FanDuel side, we have point guard Dennis Schroeder, $6,600, looking for at least 33 of him. Got to 41.2 on the FanDuel side, so he was a hit over there as well. At shooting guard, we went Duncan Robinson, $5,900, so we were looking for 29.30 out of him. Only got 25.8 on FanDuel because you didn't get the 3-point bonus, so technically he was a mess. Mainly just scored the ball yesterday. So I think it was 19 real-life points, like 4 rebounds, 1 assist, I want to say. So just hoping that he did like a little bit more. If he gets that steal that I was kind of talking about yesterday when we were talking about the slate, would have at least been a push, but just kind of unfortunate there. And then at small forward, we had Keldon Johnson, $5,700, looking for 28.29 out of him, got to 33.6, so he was a hit. And then at power forward, we went with Kelly Olynyk here at $6,500. Maybe this should have been Zach Collins, who was $6,100, but ultimately ended up on Olynyk. Kind of an unfortunate game, kind of that worst case scenario of what I talked about in his range of outcomes yesterday. We were looking for, 32, 33 of him. Got to 20.8. He was a mess. Played 28 minutes in this game. 3 for 9 shooting from the field. Didn't do too much. And then he did ultimately end up fouling out in this game as well. And then last but not least, at center, we went with Rudy Gobert at $8,600. Looking for 43 of him. Got to 47.8. So he was a pretty good hit yesterday. And honestly, earlier on in that game, he was off to a little bit better start, and even like through the third quarter, so I thought he was going to finish with even more points than this. So maybe a little bit unfortunate there, but still a really good day for him overall. So 3 out of 5 on the FanDuel side. If you had some other good plays alongside this core 5, you still had a pretty decent chance of cashing yesterday overall. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to RotoWire and talk about those entries and play for tonight's slate. Once again, it is a 6-game main slate on both sides. There's 8 games in total, and there are only 2 teams on the back-to-back today in the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Miami Heat, so we will not be talking too much about those teams just in general. So we'll be starting off with the New Orleans Pelicans. Dyson Daniels is out for tonight. And then on the Philadelphia 76ers side, we got Robert Covington, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and DeAnthony Melton all out once again. So pretty similar to what we've seen in their most recent game. I think their most recent game, though, we did see Kyle Lowry sit out as well. So Campaign was ultimately a really good play there. We'll see if they go back to that small guard backcourt or not. Probably not the best team to do against in the New Orleans Pelicans, since they do have a little bit of size at that 2-guard spot with Brandon Ingram in general, but we'll see what the 76ers go with tonight. Then we move over to the Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo Ball, Seth Curry, Cody Martin, and Mark Williams all out once again. And then Trey Mann is listed as questionable with a groin injury. We'll see whether or not he ultimately ends up playing tonight or not. If he's out, it gives a little bit more usage for some of these other guys, whether it's Micic, whether it's Brandon Miller, whether it's Miles Bridges. And then, going against the Washington Wizards tonight, where there is no Marvin Bagley on the opposite side for the Charlotte Hornets, there could be a lot of smaller lineups for them just in general too as well. Maybe some Grant Williams at that 5 spot. And then for the Wizards side, like I already mentioned, Marvin Bagley's out once again tonight. Then we have Landry Shamet listed as questionable due to a calf injury. And then Patrick Baldwin Jr. we're not too worried about since he's down in the G League. So pretty similar to what we've seen out of Washington in their most recent game. Obviously, Landry Shamet could open up some minutes, for guys, whether it's Corey Kispert, whether it's Johnny Davis, whether it's Jordan Poole just picking up a couple extra minutes here and there. But, at the end of the day, probably not going to change too much. And then we move over to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're on the back-to-back. We know Karl Anthony Towns is going to be out for a while now since he has a meniscus tear and is having surgery. Jalen Clark's been out all season for them, so would not expect him to play once again tonight as well. And then for the Cleveland Cavaliers side, they're without Ty Jerome, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Max Strus, and Tristan Thompson. So pretty much seeing what we saw out of them in their most recent game as well. Move down to the Orlando Magic. Just Wendell Carter Jr. listed as questionable for tonight's game. Obviously, if he's unable to go, Goga Batati probably getting that start and looking like a little bit of a value option on today's slate overall. For the New York Knicks, we got OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson all out once again. And then we have Jalen Brunson listed as questionable. I think if he plays, you can play him. If he doesn't play, then Miles McBride is going to be very much in play once again tonight. Then we move over to the Miami Heat. They're one of the two teams that are on the back-to-back today, so we'll see what their injury report looks like as the day moves along. And then the Oklahoma City Thunder on the opposite side appear to be all the way healthy at this point in time, so it looks like the center, Jalen Williams, should be back for tonight's game overall. Then we move down to the Atlanta Hawks, who are without Kobe Buffkin, Jalen Johnson, Seth Lundy, Onyeka Okongwu, and Trae Young. So the newest one here is going to be Jalen Johnson. We'll probably see DeAndre Hunter enter that starting lineup. A couple more minutes to go around for some of those bench guys, but probably the 5 guys that are starting will eat up the biggest amount of minutes for them overall. Probably not anybody off the bench that is going to become like a major value piece on today's slate overall, though. Then we move over to the Memphis Grizzlies. They are without Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, Scottie Pippen Jr., Derrick Rose, Marcus Smart, Yuta Watanabe, and Zaire Williams all out once again. And then Luke Kennard is also listed as doubtful for tonight's game. So we'll see whether or not Jordan Goodwin plays. If he plays and he starts tonight, he's going to be a very good option on the DraftKings side. FanDuel is a little bit more expensive today, but they're kind of monitoring how many games he plays at this point in time because he is on a 2-way contract, so he can only play so many games at the NBA level without making him a regular NBA contract. And then last but not least, G.G. Jackson is also listed as questionable. We'll see ultimately whether or not he plays or not tonight. Then we have the final 2 games of the night, which are not on the main slate. We have the Milwaukee Bucks without Chris Middleton, and then Giannis listed as probable to play. And then for Los Angeles Lakers, we have Castleton, Vincent, and Christian Wood all listed as out. Jared Vanderbilt technically has the dark green next to his name, but sounds like he's not going to be back till at least the 13th at the earliest is kind of what the estimated timeline is, and there really hasn't been a major update, so it's safe to assume that he's out once again tonight as well. And then LeBron James and Anthony Davis both technically listed as questionable for tonight's game. Have to assume they're both probably going to play once again, and then Cam Reddish listed as probable. And then we move over to the Houston Rockets. Just Jeff Green listed as questionable, who did miss their most recent game, which was, I believe, a back-to-back, so he's probably going to be good to go for tonight overall. And then for the Portland Trailblazers, we got Malcolm Brogdon and Shane Sharp both out once again. And then DeAndre Ayton, Scoot Henderson, both listed as doubtful, so unlikely that they play tonight. And then we have Jabari Walker, Jeremy Grant, and Toumani Camara all listed as questionable to play. Camara has missed the 2 most recent games due to illness, and then Grant played in their most recent game, so safe to assume that he's going to play once again tonight. Jabari Walker is kind of the newest one with the injury here overall. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on all the injuries in play for tonight's slate overall. As always, if there's any injury updates that do come out throughout the day, I'll be leaving them down in the comments as well as the starting lineups as they do come out throughout the night. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about my core picks over there. So in DraftKings, at the point guard position, we're going to go with Jordan Goodwin. He is $5,200. This is only if he's playing in tonight's game and in that starting lineup. If he's not, then we're probably going to go to Micic. If Trey Mann's out tonight, we might just go to Micic anyways. Obviously, a couple other cheap guys that we could go to, whether it's Cam Payne entering that starting lineup once again for the 76ers, whether it's Kyle Lowry, whether it is Miles McBride, if Jalen Brunson ultimately gets ruled out again. We're just going to be somebody in that, low 5K range, mid 5K range, somewhere in there at that point guard position tonight is the plan in general. But with that being said, if Goodwin plays tonight, he is essentially the only point guard left with no Luke Kennard. Obviously, they've had Conchar run a little bit of point at times this year just because of how thin they've been at that position overall. But if Goodwin plays tonight, $5,200, you're looking for 26. Currently I'm projected for 29. It's a really good pace-up spot versus the Atlanta Hawks tonight as well, so could he have some upside for more as well. Then at shooting guard, we're going to go to Duncan Robinson once again, so he's $5,500, $100 cheaper than he was yesterday. On the back-to-back tonight, a little bit of pace-up spot versus the Oklahoma State Thunder. Been playing big minutes. Been shooting the ball pretty well as of late. If we can get a couple other things besides points out of him tonight, would be even better. But on DraftKings, not quite as worried about that since we do get that 3-point bonus. We're looking for 27, 28 out. Currently, I'm projected for 29, 30 tonight overall. And then at small forward, we're going to go with DeAndre Hunter at $5,000. He is a pretty good value play today overall, if we're being honest. Should be in that starting lineup, should play decent-sized minutes. Only looking for 25 out of him, averaging just under 25 on the season. Going against the Memphis Grizzlies tonight should be a very favorable matchup. Do currently have him projected for about 28, 29 fantasy points on DraftKings tonight. Then at power forward, we're going to go with Kyle Kuzma. He is $7,800. You're looking for 39 out of him. He's averaging 39 so far in the season. He's been up over 40 points, I think, like the last 5 games now. Really favorable matchup versus the Charlotte Hornets. Playing a little bit of center probably once again with no Marvin Bagley out there. So going to be pretty good for him just in general. Game that should probably go small with him and Grant Williams kind of playing that 5 spot for both teams. We'll see whether or not they try to keep Nick Richards out there a little bit more for the Charlotte Hornets or not, but definitely like the upside that Kuzma has. And, you get a little bit of rebounding upside in those games that he kind of is playing that center position as well. And then last but not least at center, we're going to go with Rudy Gobert here. He's $7,700. Looking for 38, 39 at him. He's averaging 37.5 so far in the season. A little bit tougher matchup tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers, but coming off a pretty big game. He's playing pretty well as of late. No Karl-Anthony Towns, so a couple extra opportunities to go around just in general for him and some of these other Timberwolves players. We'll see whether or not that ankle injury pops up on the back-to-back once again today or not. I'm not really too worried about it at this point in time, although he did have that, last week. But he's played on a back-to-back since then, so not really too concerned about it at this point in time. He feels like a guy that's pretty safe to go for 40 points tonight. It's a little bit tougher matchup versus Cleveland and Jared Allen. But at the same time, it's still Rudy Gobert. He still has that high-end rebounding upside on any given slate. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $18,800 remaining, just under $6,300 per player. So a decent amount of money left over, looking a little bit more like a balance build type of day overall. We'll see what other value does ultimately end up popping up throughout the day. Maybe it opens up some other opportunities for us to pay up for a star player. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So at the point guard position, we're going to go with Vasilij Micić at $5,400 here for the Charlotte Hornets. Good chance that Trey Mann doesn't play tonight. Looking for 27 out of him. Jordan Goodwin on FanDuel, if you wanted to play him, I think he's like $6,300, so a little bit more expensive over here. If you don't want to play Micić, you could look at Kyle Lowry. I think he's like $5,100 on FanDuel tonight. Doesn't look like a bad value either. I like the matchup for Micić just in general. Going against the Washington Wizards should be a pretty high-paced game, pretty back and forth. Whether or not there's a lot of scoring kind of remains to be seen with these two teams, but there is the opportunity for that to happen. And if there is no Trey Mann tonight, he's going to get a little bit usage bump and probably an assist bump at the same time as well. And when he's gotten the minutes this year, he's actually looked pretty good for, being like a 30-year-old rookie who obviously was a really good player over in Europe. At $5,400, once again, looking for 27 out of him. Currently, I'm projected for about 28, 29. Obviously, that goes up a little bit more, especially if Trey Mann ultimately ends up missing tonight's game. Then at shooting guard, we're going to go with Buddy Hield here at $6,600, looking for 33 out of him. Can't really say too much about his average on the season because a lot of that did come with the Pacers, but since he's been with the 76ers, he's actually played really well. For the most part, there's been a couple down games here and there, but there is no Tyrese Maxey tonight. There is a lot of shots and usage to go around, especially with no Maxey, no Joel Embiid still. So Buddy Hield is a guy that could soak some of that up, whether it's him, Tobias Harris, or Kelly Oubre Jr. All three have very high-end upside for tonight's game overall. Ultimately ended up throwing Buddy Hield in here. And, once again, $6,600, looking for 33 out. Currently, I'm projected for about 36 tonight. Has some upside for more, obviously, and then does have some downside for less as well. Then at small forward, we're going to go with DeAndre Hunter. He's $5,700, so $700 more than he is over on DraftKings. We're looking for 28, 29 out of him. Obviously, on FanDuel, you get the defensive stats, which is something he's done pretty well at throughout his career. Obviously, that was kind of his calling card when he got drafted. He was a 3-and-D guy and mainly stood out for the defensive purposes so far in his career. Shot never really came around too much, but we're not going to ramble on about that too much today. But we were looking for 28, 29 out of him. Currently, I'm projected for about 29. Should be in that starting lineup. Should be playing decent-sized minutes in a really favorable matchup versus the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. Then at power forward, we're going to go with Grant Williams here. So I think the Hornets are going to go small in this game, especially if Kyle Kuzma is starting at center. I don't think Nick Richards is not going to start or anything, but he's going to start. He's probably going to play a little bit less minutes. That should favor Grant Williams just in general. More rebounding opportunities. If there is no Trey Mann out there, a little bit of bump up in usage as well. Obviously, we've seen some pretty high-end games from Grant Williams since he's been with this Hornets team, so I like chasing that upside a little bit today. $5,100, only looking for 25, 26 out. Currently, I'm projected for about 27 tonight. And then last but not least, at the center position, we're going to go with Jaren Jackson Jr. here at $9,000. So pretty big price tag here, to be honest. We're looking for at least 45 fantasy points out of him tonight. Averaging about 38 so far in the season, but the most recent games that he's kind of played, when he's played these big minutes, when he's been healthy enough to play in these games, he's been playing really well and soaking up as much usage as possible for this Memphis team, since he's playing with a lot of backup players, a lot of guys that probably be on the end of some of these other NBA teams' bench. So no disrespect to them, but Jaren Jackson's going to look pretty good overall. It's a little bit tougher matchup against Clint Capella. He's a decent defensive center, but he's still kind of banged up at this point in time, not playing a ton of minutes. And the Atlanta Hawks team overall, not the greatest defensively as well. With all that being said, though, Jaren Jackson Jr., once again, $9,000, looking for 45 points out. Currently, I'm projected for about 47, 48 tonight. Does give us some high-end upside for even more, though. But with that being said, if you do go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $28,200 remaining, just over $7,000 per player. So a decent amount of money left over. You have the ability to pay up for a couple other guys if there's something you want to do, and then kind of pay down at some other spots. If you want to build out a little bit more balanced lineup, definitely feel free to do that as well tonight. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both FanDuel and DraftKings for today, March 8th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. I do ask that you please know whether those comments are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then, as always, I'll be listing all the injury updates down in the comments below, as well as the starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the night. And then I will also have my updated core out probably about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock. It might be closer to 30 minutes tonight, just kind of with everything else going on. But that will be left down in the comments as well as a pinned comment. If there's any other additional changes to that updated core after that is posted, I will leave them as a reply to the pinned comment as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we just got NBA DFS going on in terms of the core pick videos Monday through Friday. But once the end of the month rolls around, we'll be doing some MLB DFS and then some UFL DFS as well. So definitely be sure to check that out if that's something you're into. If it's something you haven't tried before and you want to learn a little bit more about it, definitely be sure to check that out as well. And if you have any questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to drop them down in the comments of those videos, and be happy to help you out with that as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in prop betting, if you're interested in sports betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. For BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to drop them down in the comments below, or reach out to me on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.